Hello and welcome to Prime Debate. Nobel laureate V.S. Naipaul is venerated for his writing, but his recent controversial comments against women writers have attracted much criticism in the literary world. Women writers are quite different, Sir Vidya said. Why? Because of their sentimentality, their narrow view of the world. As he put it, Naipaul has often been seen by editors as a high-maintenance writer, but his remarks that there has been no woman writer whom he considers his equal were not only seen as sexist, but also plain irrational and out of touch. That's what we discuss in the Prime Debate today. Women writers are different, they are quite different. I read a piece of writing and within a paragraph or two I know whether it is by a woman or not. I think unequal to me. Indian origin author V.S. Naipaul has dismissed female authors as unequal to him and said women writers demonstrate a lack of ability.
There's no doubting Naipaul's skills. Unfortunately, there's no doubting his lack of political correctness either. As if a comparison with women authors in general was not enough, he had to pull Jane Austen into it. As if to make sure the world sat up and took notice. The world may have been scandalized, but to Naipaul, it's all the same. Or is it? What did that remark mean anyway? A bloated ego or just a publicity gimmick? Okay, let's be fair. There are some who say Naipaul does not consider men his equal either. Classic case of some of us being more equal than the rest. Are Naipaul's remarks symptoms of a deeper malady which seems to afflict writers? When does an artistic pursuit turn into a game of one-upmanship? These questions have been drifting around. It's time they were answered.
What has shaped his experience to decide that women can never, have never and probably will never write as well as he does? To discuss this, we have in our studios Suchita Malik, an author, Supriya Chaudhary Sharma, research scholar in English from Punjab University, Chandigarh, Rajneesh Vatas, an author and a Naipaul aficionado, Sherry Sabharwal, a sociologist. Welcome to our studios, everybody. Suchita, I'll start with you. Now, first things first, let's get this thing straight. Do you agree that Sir Vidya crossed the limits by far this time? I mean, his remarks were irrational.
I think under no circumstances can you justify whatever he has said, that, you know, and he hasn't even spared a writer like Jane Austen, who is a Greek in her own way. I mean, we are still making movies on her, whatever she has written, and you may find her a little sentimental, but then, well, sentimentality is something which is a perspective of life. You lend, I think women writers, they, in their own way, they lend a perspective to whatever they are writing, and perspective to the single-minded male approach towards things. But under whatever he has said, I cannot certainly justify whatever he has said, and we feel that, you know, writing skills is not the prerogative of male gender only, and writing skills or talent has certainly no gender. Why do we say women writing? When actresses these days, they want to be known as actors. Right. I mean, why women writers?
Absolutely.
Why not writers?
Absolutely. Supriya, let me come to you. I believe you read a lot.
I do.
Right? So, do you agree with Sir Vidya?
Of course, being a feminist, I would definitely not agree with Sir Vidya, because such a jaundiced view of women writing is absolutely not acceptable, not only to me, but I think to most of the women around. I don't believe it's got anything to do with feminism particularly, but, you know, had he pinpointed, you know, that these are certain writers, you know, female writers who cannot write well, that is still acceptable. Okay, you have a personal choice. But when you give such a generalized statement that women writer cannot write well and they don't have the ability to write well, then, you know, that is where it pricks you the most.
Absolutely. Sherry, do you agree with her jaundiced view, the way she had put it?
Well, it is biased, of course. It is a gender-biased view, but I have a slightly different opinion here. You know, people are saying Naipaul said this because he's insecure, you know, those who reacted, because his arrogance speaking. I'm not too sure. Arrogant he might be, he's not insecure, he doesn't need to be. I think he simply has a flair for attention seeking.
and he has this fondness for creating a stir. And that's what he's trying to do. बैठे थे चलो, as it was mentioned earlier, कि एक छेड़खानी करनी है, कर दी.
And I think I'm getting a feeling that he's coming up with a new book.
And and I have a, you know, my take is that we are playing into his hands by doing all these programs, frankly, because this is what he wanted. That's my feeling. Because he was looking for attention, he's got it.
Right, Mr. Watis, you are a Naipaul fan, follower, watcher. So I'm sure you have different views from all the ladies on the panel tonight.
You know, first of all, I'd like to put it in a little larger context. You know, at the end of it, these are his personal comments. This is not the voice of God of literature. Now, secondly, anyone who has, you know, kept a track of Naipaul's, you know, rise to...
Tell me one thing. When the words or somebody's words are published, do they really actually stay personal?
You know, it's like this very revered figure, or a very, you know, a very famous man, or a lot of people have said that he's the finest writer of English language, you know, in the world, which is, it's a generally sort of agreed upon that he's a great writer. Now, therefore, his comments are making all the ripples. Now, having said that, first of all, let me tell you, Naipaul is not, I totally disagree with Sherry that he's doing it to get, you know, attention or media bites. It's not that. Because he has done so much of work, and he's such a serious writer, he's, you know, he's so committed to his art. He has never been frivolous. You know, he once said that I never write an unconsidered sentence. He's one writer who has explained the craft and the, you know, methodology of writing more than any other living writer. And he is a very, very serious writer. For him, it's absolutely, you know, an act of worship, or an act of, you know, the holy thing. It's a holy thing for him. And his opinions, his crafting of the sentence, his language, his style is so almost perfect, so seamless, and he has got great insights. Now, just give me a second more. All that he has said are his personal comments, and probably the real import of this is that a person writes the world he knows very well. You know, you mine your own, a writer would mine his own experiences, because women are homemakers. They generally have, you know, they don't go to the war and write from the, you know, trenches.
Well, they do.
They are,
well,
that's a very decent thing. But, you know, wars, battles, you know, politics, real politics, revolutions, you look at his...
Tell me, Naipaul has actually not spared many writers, be it men or women, right?
Yes,
and this time, however, what pricked readers is his premise, that women just don't have it in them to write the way he can.
You see, as you said very correctly, in fact, he considers himself, or he, you know, it's like I may say something to myself in the bathroom, but you know, it won't be politically correct. I may, you know, he actually has worked very hard, and he believes he has gone through starvation, that he has earned this inner smugness of being a very great writer. And we acknowledge that. And I think he would have the same kind of opinion about himself vis-a-vis male writers also. Most of the, I mean, he thinks very poorly. His remarks on R.K. Narayan, let me tell you, we are worried about women being sent. He, you know, his remarks on R.K. Narayan, he writes in his book that his was a very limited world, you know. He kept writing. He says he never dealt with the big issues of the world of life. So that's, it's in, so this new remark.
But that's what he wanted to portray, that is what he wanted to narrate. That's again a personal choice. If he has a right to say anything, that's again another writer's personal choice.
Suppose if he's coming out with a book and it's an attention-seeking gimmick, well, it doesn't behave his personality or his standing or a stature as a writer to stoop to that.
Right.
I mean, if he wants to shock, it's a shocking statement. But if he wants to shock, let him shock with words. Let him shock with written words. You know, the world is full of shocking problems. He could have talked about the environment problem, he could have talked about the climate change, he could have talked about the global warming, he could have talked about the hunger, the poverty, the AIDS, the atrocities on humanity all over
Why
the
he
world.
targeted women?
Why he, I mean, demeaning women. Demeaning women is the oldest trick in the book.
I think he's still living in that 1950s era.
Primitive patriarchal system, and it's an example of male hegemony, his belief in male hegemony, which cannot be
you were talking
condoned.
about Jane Austen
Yes.
when we started, right? She has actually spanned a whole generation of writers and readers.
Yes.
She lived in another country. She lived in, you know, totally another world. From where has Sir Vidya come to the conclusion that she was not up to the mark?
Because I think Jane Austen, there is absolutely, this goes without saying that Jane Austen is a great writer, but her maybe scope, her canvas is a little limited. Well, what the critics say that she works on 2 inches of ivory. So she doesn't go beyond 4 or 5 families in a village, but then she goes deeper. She goes, she enters their mind. She gives a psychological treatment to the character.
It's a matter of style.
Style,
As he
yes.
said, I don't like Falana's style. That one can understand.
Yes.
I do not like Naipaul's style, which is fine. That doesn't make him a bad writer. He's still a great writer. I may not enjoy his style.
Yes.
And that's what he should have said. So you know, the only problem I have is, actually I was letting him off the hook by saying ki attention seeking kar rahe hain. You put him back in the place where he's being again reviled, because I was simply saying karne do yaar, kya farak padta hai, thoda bahut bol bhi gaya. He didn't really mean it in that sense. If he is serious about all he says, that makes him very dangerous. That makes this sentence, then it makes what he said extremely objectionable. I was simply saying it's not. ठीक है, चलता है.
I don't know how he says that, you know, that women writers give a narrow-minded approach. Well, she's talking about human emotions. She's talking about human instinct.
No,
she's talking about concepts, pride, prejudice.
Let me bring
sensibility.
Supriya in. Supriya, do you think that women writers actually need any endorsement from Naipaul?
I definitely not feel that, because I feel that we've already proven ourselves and we do not need anybody to tell whether we can write well or not. Plus, I feel that, you know, the kind of figure Naipaul has been since now, he's been a very controversial figure. He has been in controversies for saying that, you know, when he proclaims to be a post-colonial writer, but at the same time, you know, he derides and castigates third world countries. He says that 40% of, you know, 40 years back, Indians were not capable of reading my books.
Intellectual enough.
They were not intellectual enough to read my books. So I think he has a flair for controversies. That's how, maybe he's already 80 and he needed some, you know, punch in his life.
Even post-colonial countries, he says they are half-baked societies.
Right.
I think he has a knack for generating controversies
that's
and
his own
wants to be
opinion.
news.
See, I
But
can
why is he
always-
doing that?
You can live
He doesn't
with
need
that.
that.
Mr. Waters, we have very little time. We have to go into the break. Yeah, you have your own view on this?
You see, Naipaul doesn't need all this media buzz. He is a person, you know, I would say, give him the marks for being least hypocritical. You see, it's always very nice to be saying goody, you know, sort of feel good things. He is one person who has held political views, his books you know, about Islam, you know, which were so, you know, ahead of their times. I mean, his insights. He said all those unpleasant things, they have come true. His opinion about, you know, these, as he said, half-baked societies, we know that it's true. India is still 70% of it half-baked society.
Right.
That's a fact. You know, we'll be shy of saying all this. He goes on in the public realm, he gives his personal comments, and very sort of, that is a mark of inner confidence.
You said about
writing is
40
very
years
good.
ago he actually said that Indians were not able to. If I think about my grandfather, he's so, you know, highly qualified, and the kind of books he reads now.
It's a mark of lack of grace also.
But you and I are not
Certainly, I would
India.
agree.
You and I are 0.001%.
So still we are not there.